Hello again, everyone. This is Brian Drebber, along with Jose Diaz of Italia Velo Sport, and we're going to bring you the 69th running of the Giro d'Italia bicycle race from Italy in 1986.
Hello, Brian. I guess this is the second year in a row that we're doing this Giro d'Italia event, and I'm looking forward to covering it with you as we did last year. As you know, the Prologue was won by Freuler, Urs Freuler, very well-known figure, particularly for track events, and also an excellent road sprinter. It was a very short time trial this year, I believe not more than a kilometer in length. And Freuler won it handily. It's more than anything was set to determine who was going to wear the pink jersey. But nevertheless, it's a very rewarding victory for somebody to win the first stage. Here we see the actual participation of Freuler in the event at the finish line.
Freuler, as you said, is one of the premier track racing specialists, having been a world champion in the Kirin event and also in points race competition on the track. In fact, he won the professional points race, went on to win the professional points race in 1986.
Here we have the actual first road stage, and there's a solo breakaway from Pedersen. Pedersen is an interesting personality here in his home country of Denmark, I believe. He is a rock star. He could really be making a living as a singing celebrity. Instead, he chooses to ride the bike, and only during the off-season does he participate in singing as a celebrity.
It's a beautiful countryside in the Giro d'Italia. 21 stages overall in this event.
And this year the Giro started in Sicily. So the first few stages that you're going to see here, it's all in the section of Italy that it's in the southernmost part, and an island in itself, Sicily. There's a lot of Italian Americans with roots in this part of Italy.
The weather certainly cooperated here on this opening stage, although the weather in Sicily generally in the summertime is quite good. It's a bit of a tourist attraction sort of place to be, a nice place to spend some time in the summer.
Actually, if anything, it was very appropriate because I remember being in the northern part of Italy at this time and watching it live, and where we were, it was quite cold in some of the days, whereas as you can see, they were enjoying excellent weather. As the caravan moves north, you're going to see some definite changes in the weather, to the point that in some of the mountain stages there was quite a bit of snow.
The graphic that appears here indicates that our breakaway at this point is showing a 30-second advantage over the main peloton. There you can see a camera shot then back to the main field in this first stage, a 30-second breakaway at this point in the bike race. Some of the graphics that'll help explain what's going on in addition to our commentary.
In the bottom there you basically have 69th Giro of Italy, first stage. And the RAI in the right-hand corner is the mark of the Italian national television.
Here the breakaway is being joined by one of Freuler's teammates on the Itala team.
This is Bugno. It's an up-and-coming rider. This is his first year as a professional, and there are some great hopes for him. And as it turned out, during the season, he won several major races, including the Giro del Piemonte, I believe. And they really have some high expectations for this rider.
As he catches the breakaway and then counterattacks the break. As you can see, Bugno is taking off on his own here through the winding countryside. Again, the traveling caravan, the traveling circus that is a major international stage race, including the camera motorcycle, which is accompanying Bugno on his effort right now. All the team support cars, press vehicles, commissaire vehicles, and vehicles of every kind.
And the helicopter, which is widely used both in Italy and in France.
There's a helicopter shot right there showing how the riders race very close to one another. As a long sort of tapering front part of the peloton is moving along very quickly. Riders in single file there at the very front. And then it spreads back to the main body of the pack. How many riders are in this particular year's Giro?
I believe about 170 started. You can see by the size of the pack, it's a considerable number. We're seeing some small, little bit of climbing here. There was no real significant climbing in these stages in Sicily, but there was a lot of rolling terrain, and here in particular we're seeing a bit of climbing, nothing really significant. This is a rider, Santa Maria. He's one of these riders that has always been on the verge of making it big, but never can come up with a big one. In this particular stage, I believe he wins it and goes on to wear the leader's jersey. It only lasted for a couple of days, but nevertheless, he did have his chance at glory.
Again, the graphic that was there a moment ago telling us that he's rider number 36. His name's Santa Maria, and he's 29 years old. And here you can see how small his margin of victory, in fact, is, that he is a winner, but not by much. Of course, an inch is as good as a mile, as they say, for a victory in a bike race. Except in a stage race, so to speak, because it's determined on time. Now, he'll get a bonus for his stage victory, a bonus of time, but had he been able to win by an actual margin of a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, that would have been very significant indeed. There he is on the winner's podium with the Maglia Rosa, the pink jersey of the winner, of the leader, the overall leader of the race.
This is Rosola. He's a well-known sprinter, and Rosola is wearing the purple jersey, which is a points jersey.
Points are awarded for stage victories and for various hot spots along the way, so the rider who wears the points jersey is considered to be the most consistent finisher, the most consistent placing rider in finishes and in hotspot special point sprints along the way.
Here we see there's 168 riders who started this second stage.
A two-rider breakaway. This is in the early part of the race. Replay, if you will, I guess, to the live broadcast at the time.
We got a French rider and an Italian rider.
There's the Italian.
You can see there's a bit of a crosswind by the overlapping of the rider who's sitting in.
It's Chauvet, the French rider. The wind blowing from the rider's right to left, which is why Chauvet there in the back is drifting just off to the left side of the leading rider.
That's one thing. Sicily being an island, it could get quite windy there. And the echeloning, etc., was a significant part of the day's racing. But the breakaway is not going to be very long-lived. See the echelon, Brian, as they fan out?
That and the momentum of the pack, you can see them really coming on. They fan from the right to the left side of the road, indicating that the wind is blowing from right to left. And there the two breakaway riders are conceding that they are caught.
Uomini al comando, ripetiamo, Amadori, Cortinovis, Bombini, l'australiano Wilson e la maglia rosa Santa Maria.
Santa Maria in the pink jersey, signifying the race leader.
The Alpha Loom rider is an Australian, one of the few English-speaking riders in the Italian teams, by the name of Michael Wilson.
Wilson e Amadori, ecco Bombini e poi Cortinovis, un giovane molto
also in the breakaway, Bombini and Cortinovis. There's the race leader. A 30-second advantage at this point for 5 riders.
And they're 10 kilometers from the finish line at this point.
There we see the yellow and black jersey of the Del Tongo team of Cerrone.
Actually, this was there was a crash, and Cerrone was involved in the crash, and then the team went back to give him a hand, and here they're pacing him back to the front group. The pack had actually broken up, but apparently it's now back in one piece again.
La del Dongo sta facendo la prova per la cronometro di domani.
Certainly, Cerrone is one of the real favorites of the Italian fans, and his yellow and black jersey is one that they look for very much in earnest. The final kilometer now, we're looking at the last 0.6 of a mile to the finish line. Again, through the narrow streets of the town that hosts the finish of the Giro d'Italia.
And it is an honor for the town to host the finish. They really vie for to be chosen to be a finish site of the Giro.
Around what would appear to be the final turn, and the pack beginning to stretch out, and now some of the sprinters really making their moves here. Really good shot from the helicopter, showing how the sprint develops in the field as riders will attack on one side of the road or the other. The others will follow, try to get into that slipstream. And then from a front view, you can see that it looks very different from ground level and from the front. It looks like a huddled mass of riders, whereas it really does have a very definite pattern, as you can see from the aerial shot. They've been racing for nearly 7 hours, the time showing in the lower corner of the screen. The 0 down below will be the time difference between the leaders and any following riders that might come in.
Van Poppel, it's I believe a Dutch rider.
Van der Poel, I believe, is who they're saying. It's
Van Poppel.
Padre Van der Poel. And he is a very good sprinter. Has also raced in the United States in the Coors Classic in Colorado. Van der Arden, the Belgian, Freuler, the winner of the Prologue, all figuring in this sprint finish. 36 kilometers per hour average for nearly 7 hours. And there's Santa Maria, the race leader.
So as you can see, they're moving through Sicily, and there, where the flashing red light is where the next stage will take place, which is a time trial. And it is a hill-top finish for this time trial. It's a team time trial, and it was a novelty to have a team time trial with a hill finish. And what they did is they had to finish 4 riders, and most of the squads basically sacrificed the riders that were not good climbers on the flat part, and then the riders that were good climbers were the ones that did all the work at the finish and were expected to really bring it home.
Here we see the necessary 4 riders struggling towards the finish.
It was a 45-kilometer time trial, and I believe the finishing climb was about 7 kilometers.
Looks to be a very scenic, and there's the road sort of turning around on itself there, so it's obviously very steep as well.
Last kilometer here. This is the Brianzoli team, which is Moser's team, and as you saw at the beginning there, they were down to 6, and now they lost another man. They're down to 5.
Again, needing only 4 to post a time for the team. The time taken on the 4th man. Apparently the leading time at the top, 1 hour, 6 minutes, 32 seconds for 45 kilometers. And the time of the current team appearing just underneath.
Look at the narrow streets. It's a dead giveaway that this is old country. This is a very old town in Sicily.
So Baron Kelly and his team finishing up there. And they have posted the fastest time now at 1:05.
Here's the Del Tongo team.
This is the team of Cerrone.
There's Cerrone.
Right there, and also contains the former world amateur champion Lech Piasecki.
Piasecki is the one doing the pulling at this time. I remember when I watched this on Italian television. I would say at least the last 2 kilometers, he just sat at the front and just kept the pace up. And at the very end, Cerrone came around him, but I think that was more of a show of authority than anything else. But Piasecki was definitely doing the lion's share towards the end of this time trial. Confirming himself, by the way, as a good time trialist. In the Siena time trial, he actually won.
Cerrone in 1986, of course, went on to win the field sprint, essentially, at the World Cycling Championships and take a bronze medal.
Yeah, that was a good showing for the Italians. They got first and third.
And there's Cerrone coming around Piasecki to show his face at the front at the finish of this time trial. And their time, again, the new fastest time.
1:04.50, and it was 1:05 even for the Brianzoli or Moser's team. As you know, they're arch rivals, Cerrone and Moser.
There's Cerrone spraying the champagne, the captain of the team. Piasecki there just in the back with the mustache. Again, a former world amateur champion, and a bit unusual as very few so-called Eastern Bloc riders go on to professional careers. Piasecki is from Poland. Another Polish rider, Czesław Lang, also rides for the same team, Cerrone's Del Tongo team. And both competed in the United States later in this same season. One of the towns saluting the Giro d'Italia and welcoming it to it.
Now, from this point on, and for quite a number of days, Cerrone is going to be wearing the leader's pink jersey.
And his teammates will help him defend that jersey. There the general classification showing
Cerrone, Moser, Thoreau. Here's Vicentini. Vicentini rode an extremely aggressive race. Every time the road started going up, every time he had an opportunity, he would attack.
His number is 22. We need to watch for that number, as you say, often throughout this event. He was very aggressive.
If you notice his right wrist, he's wearing a soft cast because he had a previous accident. And during the entirety of the Giro, he would wear this soft cast on his right wrist, which made it uncomfortable to him, particularly on descents and whenever the road was a little rough because of the vibration. But it certainly didn't deter him from riding an extremely aggressive race, and as it turned out, winning the Giro. And here's Greg arriving.
Greg LeMond,
who also rode an extremely aggressive Giro with the La Vie Claire team. This is Claudio Corti, the Italian professional champion, teammate of Moser. This is GB Baron Kelly, another teammate of Moser. Here's Greg attacking and being chased down by Vicentini as well as Corti.
There again is Vicentini, number 22, and Greg LeMond, former world professional champion and subsequent Tour de France winner.
No, Vicentini didn't go work with Greg decidedly on this one, and as you can see, the rest of the other riders were able to come back up.
A five-man group as they approach the finish. Including, as you said, the Italian champion Corti wearing the green, white, and red jersey there.
Now, interestingly here, you have the Brianzoli guys, which are Corti. Even though he's wearing the leaders, I mean the Italian Pro Champion jersey, he's from the Supermercato Brianzoli. and Baron Kelly, who are not pulling at all because Moser is in the back, and that's their team captain. So they're not working at all. The Del Tongo guy, which is wearing the white jersey, Giupponi, he's not working either because he's got his captain in the back. So the guys who have to promote the action here have to be Greg and Vicentini. And Vicentini didn't seem to be very interested in working with Greg, so I believe that they're going to be caught, and that is about ready to take place. Stage racing is extremely tactical, Brian, as you well know, and being experienced with the Coors Classic and some of the American stage races, you know that it's very, very much a team effort. And I don't know of anybody, unless they're head and shoulders above the competition, who can win a stage race on their own power. Requires a lot of team effort, a lot of tactical expertise. And I think that that is something that the Europeans have well over us because they've been doing it for years, essentially.
This footage enables the viewers to really see some of that kind of teamwork played out, and explanations of why things are happening certainly are made much clearer by the pictures you can see when team tactics are being played out. It's convenient that in most cases the riders on the same teams wear similar uniforms, although some of the special jerseys tend to confuse us initially.
Here you have a counterattack by Moroni, and Baron Kelly went with him, even though he had just been in the breakaway. Now at this point, Baron Kelly is dropping Moroni. Now remember that he was in a breakaway not long ago, except he never worked in that breakaway when he was with Greg and Vicentini. So he was pretty fresh, and then when this kid Moroni attacked from Atala, he went with him. And now as the road started going up, Baron Kelly, who's well known to be a good climber, dropped him and actually won a stage of the Giro, as we see here.
Again, just under 3 hours at 39.7 kilometers per hour for this fourth stage victory. And there the time after the leaders is showing. You can see Baron Kelly's margin of victory ticking at 15, 16, and ending at 17 seconds. So a 17-second margin of victory for Baron Kelly.
And the field sprint was won by Moser. So in essence, the Brianzoli team took first and second.
Here's a replay of that field sprint, which really wasn't much of a sprint per se. And there's Baron Kelly and Moser sharing the podium at the end.
Baron Kelly picked up the pink jersey in this stage, and his team captain, actually, this is an interesting situation because the captain, Moser, is not in the pink jersey, but the Domestique is.
And there's Michael Wilson, the Australian, as you said, who rides for an Italian team.
Speaks perfect Italian, by the way. He certainly learned the language while he was there.
And there, just a glimpse of Steve Bauer, teammate of Greg LeMond, also competing in the Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, in this particular race, Steve was Greg's right-hand man. Andy Hampson was not here, and the other riders of La Viclaire were, the cream of the team was not there, let's put it that way. Simultaneous to this race, I believe that Hinault was racing in Colombia, and he had his faithful lieutenants over there. So Greg basically did not have a team with the depth that he had during the tour, and that was of a detrimental effect.
There's the number 22 of Vicentini again.
Again, Vicentini, the lead was being provided by Wilson, and here we see Vicentini now coming up.
Climbing getting a little more serious at this point. There are some very definite climbing roads at this stage of the Giro, as Visentini
And you
joins.
can see he just goes by Wilson at twice the speed, and Wilson doesn't even attempt, to really give him a hand or anything. I think that he feels lucky that he can just sit in.
And there the two leaders are outnumbered by the support vehicles, the television camera bikes and so on. It's always a source of amusement to me, as I've stated many times, that very often in these races the riders are outnumbered and almost dwarfed by the entourage that goes along with the race. All very necessary part of not only bringing the race to the public, but keeping the riders in the race with mechanics vehicles, team support cars, and so on.
And there you see Visentini riding away from Wilson.
Very smooth style. Visentini obviously much in control of his abilities at this point. Springtime in southern Italy.
Now he just went over the Mountain Prime banner, and now it was the descent starting. But this, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, characterized the aggressiveness and the decisiveness which Visentini rode this Giro. In the past, he's always been a real class rider, but he's always had that bad day in stage races, almost like Kelly. Kelly in every Tour de France that he's raced, or any of the other major stage races that he's done, like the Tour of Spain, he really has one bad day or two bad days, and that just kill him. And Visentini was very much in the same boat up until this Giro. He always had that bad day. The year before, he held the pink jersey for over a week, only to just totally go under one day, and to the point that he even stopped and had to be coerced into continuing the race. This year, however, he proved to be a real class rider. He held the pink jersey for a long period of time at the end, and rode with confidence and with an ability that one of those things that everybody knew that he had the potential to do, but he had never really shown it in the physical universe.
Visentini has been caught by the field as they approach the final kilometer of racing, and we have a long solo sprint coming out of the bunch.
Yeah, that's Greg
LeMond. So Visentini's effort is not unchallenged by the American LeMond, and
yeah,
but as you said, Jose just didn't have a team strong enough behind him to make his victory chances solid.
Yeah, with 1 kilometer to go, when everybody was looking at each other, he basically gave him the slip, and here you can see the fruit of that.
Keeps looking back over his shoulder, but he has to know that he's got enough ground between himself and the field, and he wins 5 hours and 14 minutes and change. Greg LeMond producing a stage victory.
That's
in the Giro d'Italia.
Field sprint there is being won by Cerrone.
Cerrone has proven himself time and time again a great field sprinter, and here's another example of his ability. Not only a good stage race rider, an all-around rider, his functional equivalent, you might say, is Davis Phinney of the United States. Phinney is beginning to prove himself as an all-around stage race rider, really coming into his own in that regard, but his forte, if you will, is the field sprint, the burst of speed at the end.
The amazing thing about Cerrone is that he certainly doesn't have the physical attributes of a climber, yet he can hold his own in the climbs. And I think that is what basically differentiates him from most people with a body type like his. Are not people that would have a tendency to win long stage races. They would be more one-day riders and things like that. But Cerrone has won the Giro a couple of times, three times as a matter of fact.
A point of some obscurity that some people might not know or remember as far back as 1974, 1975. Cerrone was a silver medalist in the Junior World Sprint Championships. The gold medalist that year, the American Gibby Hatton.
Now,
How their
Gibby
careers have gone differently over the years.
Gibby is still riding, but it's mostly track, I believe, and he's also
all track.
All track, and he's also ridden the Keirin in Japan, as a matter of fact.
That's
I remember
correct.
reading that.
Freuler, the winner of the opening time trial, the prologue time trial that we saw earlier, has a great deal of Keirin experience. The only time that Freuler would meet someone like Gibby Hatton would be on the track, and a track specialist like Hatton would not be in a race like this. Whereas Cerrone, who started out his career on the track as a junior, has gone on to become a stage race rider, as you say, with 3 Giro d'Italia victories to his credit, and a world championship as well.
Exactly. I was just going to mention that, a world championship.
There are the most visible jerseys, I would say, certainly are the yellow of the Del Tongo team, from these aerial shots at least.
The yellow and black seems to stand out quite a bit.
They rode, the Del Tongo Conagle team rode in the Course Classic this year. Cerrone, not an impressive performance at all, subsequent to the Giro and the Tour de France and prior to the World Championships, but then in the World Championships took a bronze medal.
I think he was using it more as a training ride than an attempt to really do well in that particular race.
Many riders certainly seem to be. The race, some chose to race, others chose to merely use it as conditioning for the World Championships, and with varied results. It'd be difficult to put your hands on whose idea turned out to be the correct one. Here's Moser.
No. Here we have is a young and up-and-coming rider, Roberto Pagnin. He was one of the riders that made the Italian pro team at the Worlds. One of the young riders. Him, along with Bugno, Giovanetti, are the chosen ones, so to speak. They're brand new neo-pros, but they're really proving themselves. And there are a lot of hopes, because in Italy you basically have the old guard, the Cerrone, Moser, etc., and now you got these young guys, and everybody's hoping that these young new riders are going to make it, because otherwise there's an enormous gap here before new riders can develop to be, big stars. Here's Vicentini and Da Silva. Da Silva, since then, he was racing with Malbor at that time, and he rode with the Malbor Bottega team most of the year, but towards the end he switched over to the Koss team with Kelly. And now he's become Kelly's right-hand man, and as a matter of fact, in the Tour of Lombardy, which is the last major classic of the year, there was a breakaway in which was Da Silva, Kelly, Baron Kelly, and Giupponi, which it actually ended up being 4 riders, 2 for each team, 2 for the Cass team and 2 for the Del Tongo team, and with about 3 kilometers to the finish, Baron Kelly gave him the slip and won the Tour of Lombardy, which, if it would have come down to a sprint, Kelly would have gotten it hands down. The reason why Baron Kelly is with the Del Tongo, you will see later on during this transmission. At one stage, he just got into a big disagreement with his sponsor, the Brianzoli team of Moser's, and just didn't start the next day. And right after the Giro, he signed with the Del Tongo team of Cerrone.
And here's Vicentini displaying once again his aggressiveness in a race of just under 7 hours. Vicentini, again, wearing number 22 in the green jersey, taking a stage victory. And the field sprint behind him, a rider just about to get swallowed at the line by Cerrone.
Cerrone again,
taking
winning.
Another field sprint by a mere few inches. There you can see from the aerial shot,
tremendous acceleration.
Cerrone accelerating past the rider and just getting him at the line. And this after nearly 7 hours on the bike. they're able to sprint in that manner.
Here we got the next stage at 22 kilometers from the finish, two-man breakaway. This is Pagnin again. And one of Argentine's teammates. Argentine did not race this year's Giro. He went on to win the World Championships, as we all know. But just before the Giro, he broke his collarbone, and he was not able to participate.
The field all together, and there you can see the very large number of riders that participate in this event. 2 riders away, but the big field still very much intact. General classification again showing Cerrone the overall leader, and actually co-leader apparently with Baroncelli. Giovanni, Loro, Moser sitting in 5th spot,
and Vicentini in 6th, yeah.
Sitting down in 6th at this point in the race.
See, there's something that they haven't shown here, and that's, I believe it was in the second stage. Greg crashed. Well, first of all, yeah, he crashed, I believe it was in the second stage, and lost about a minute there. And the team did not have a good team time trial at all. They were like 4th or 5th, and he lost approximately another minute on that. So those 2 incidents there pretty much got Greg well behind at the very, very beginning of the race, and it was pretty hard for him to recuperate from that. He rode very aggressively, but as I said, without having the depth in the team, and not having the support that he needed to really recuperate that extensive time difference. It was very difficult for him to do better than what he ended up doing, which was 4th place.
So he fought his way from the graphic we saw before, which had him not listed anywhere in the top 6. He fought his way back into 4th spot overall by the end of the race. Here another long solo effort just near the finish, and one apparently doomed at this point. The final kilometer again to the finish of this 7th stage. There you can see again from the aerial shot, it's always fascinating to me how it's a constantly changing, moving, very alive thing, the group as it sets up for the finish. That attacks go from one side to the other, that riders fight for the wheel of fight for the fast wheel, wherever it is and whoever it might be.
The ability to read a sprint and to be able to sit on the right wheel and not to get over anxious and come around too soon is very much something that is needed to do well in this kind of competition, in this level of competition, let alone avoiding crashes also in some of these narrow roads, etc. can make the difference between that front pack and losing even up to a minute. You can lose a minute in the last kilometer or 2.
And here the sprinters come to the line, and it appeared as though the sprinter Bontempi took that one, surviving the crash and getting to the line first.
Bontempi ended up winning 5 stages in this Giro, which was a tremendous feat.
Here's a replay of the spill. Some of the riders getting a little too close to the curb or to the spectators or something. Somebody went down, causing an accident, and but because it was in the final kilometer of the race, the riders will not be penalized on time. They'll simply be placed at the back of the main field given the same time. Any spill or mishap that occurs in the final kilometer, as they often do, the rules have been adapted to permit those riders to not be penalized in any way for being involved in a circumstantial mishap. There's Bontempi, the taller rider, and Cerrone, the race leader in the pink jersey.
That's the new pro classification and the climbing classification with the green jersey.
The beginning of the 8th stage now.
160-kilometer stage. This is the beginning of the second week of the Giro. 8th stage.
The crowd's sending the riders off, nearly as big as those welcoming the riders to the finish.
That's Didi Thoreau with the sunglasses.
A German champion who has never really lived up to the expectations that many had of him. I think it's fair to say over the years that a lot of people saw him as the next Eddie Merckx or the next truly great dominating champion, and while he's had his successes, he really has never proven to be a super champion as many expected.
He's just hasn't been consistent. He's had some very good days and then some very, very bad days. Almost like Fons de Wolf. That was another Belgian rider that was being earmarked as the next Merckx. And he would go from ice cold to terribly hot, and but there was no consistency. And I think that what has marked great riders has been consistency as much as anything else.
30 kilometers from the finish, the entire Del Tongo-Conago team massed at the front, protecting the pink jersey of Cerrone, with 2 riders up the road at this point, including Corti. There's the Italian champion Corti in that green, white, and red Italian national champion jersey.
Well, see, Corti was in the NGC in about 5th or 6th place. So the Del Tongo team had reason to be concerned.
So they've gone to the front to pick the pace up and try to chase Corti down.
I remember seeing this on live television, and Corti was having disagreements with his breakaway partner. And we're going to see something that certainly doesn't fall under sportsmanship coming up.
Once again, all the yellow jerseys of the Colnago Del Tongo team and the pink jersey of Cerrone comfortably protected. And here's the incident that you referred to, the 2 riders having their disagreements. And Corti is the rider in the green there, and you can see that he very obviously pushes this other fellow right into that stone wall, causing his crash.
He really must not have liked what this guy told him, to say the least.
So people that might be watching, for instance, the movie American Flyer and seeing all the fisticuffs and apparent Hollywood sort of fist fighting that goes on among riders and think that really is Hollywood, are seeing that in fact this sort of thing does happen. Bicycle racing is indeed a contact sport. Corti contacts the other rider, and the other rider contacts the stone wall and then the ground. And I'm sure that was very painful. Now, we're not certain what went on, but it appears as though Corti was dissatisfied with the presence of the other rider and did what he felt like he had to do to change the situation.
Here's an attack by Greg.
Again, a great individual effort, but as you mentioned earlier, an individual does not win a race of this stature. It's a team effort, team-supported race.
Vicentini and Bauer.
Ecco Chioccioli, Giuliani, l'abruzzese Giuliani, all'attacco Vandi, Giuliani e Chioccioli. Vandi a livello stilistico perfetto, Vandi, ecco poi l'abruzzese Giuliani, altro splendido.
While many of us might be struggling just to get up this road, these riders are racing in large chainring, very big gear, pushing at a really tremendous speed along these mountain roads. It's the part that's difficult to really establish without any frame of reference.
I remember watching the World Championships of last year in the Montello circuit, And if you watch the way the peloton would go up, you had no way of really relating to the difficulty of the climb. And since it's close to where we have our training camps, we used to go and train there often. And you go up it, and it looks like it's a completely different road than the one you see the pros on the screen going up, because they almost flatten it out. And to us, going up, it was always a difficult climb.
Another really animated sprint coming out of the field here right now. As you can see, riders in turn trying to get to the line first. And most of the heavy hitters are represented in that field sprint.
Sciacca, this is a fellow that he even looks like Kopi. They've nicknamed him Kopi. He's very, very thin and tall, and yet he can sprint. Though he's won more than one race sprinting. He has excellent sprinting ability, but yet he definitely doesn't have the build of your traditional sprinter.
Each of the special jerseys takes his turn on the podium. Sciacca and Cerrone sharing the podium, and now some of the terrain change that you alluded to as we're in the snow.
Now we're in central Italy, and we're going through the Pyrenees, and this is Terminillo, which is a ski resort. This is an area where the people who live in Rome go skiing in the wintertime.
And a solo breakaway by Vandi. It's the 9th stage out of 21 stages total in the Giro d'Italia for 1986. There you can see the switchback roads, the likes of which we don't have very many of in the United States.
You got to remember, this is end of May, beginning of June, and considerable amount of snow still on the ground.
Second single rider chasing the leader.
Here's Corti, again very easy to identify with the pro jersey, the Italian national pro jersey.
He's being passed quite handily there by what amounts to most of the peloton, including the pink jersey of Cerrone there in the middle. And the parked cars of all the fans who have driven up well in advance of the race to park alongside the road and cheer for their favorites.
Here's the peloton regrouping now. Apparently it's after the descent. And as you can see, the gap is not that significant anymore.
Zacasio da Silva, a stage victory in 1985.
Da Silva is a Portuguese rider. There's not many Portuguese riders, and he's one of them. He's a disciple of Agostinho. Agostinho was a very famous Portuguese rider who had a very, very bad incident late in his career. Agostinho was in his late 30s, early 40s. And in a sprint finish, a dog came out, and he actually crashed. And a couple of days later, he was dead as a result of injuries sustained during that crash. Very hardy fellow. He had been in the Foreign Legion, and at the age of 38 or 39, there was a hill climb time trial in the Tour de France, and he finished in second, which was a tremendous feat considering that he was riding against the likes of Hinault and Fignon and company.
Here again is Vandi, the leader, the current leader on this 9th stage. Climbing towards the finish.
No, he's going to the second King of the Mountains line, yeah.
Marked by the banners over the road. So he's picking up points for the mountain climbing classification. And there's Da Silva, 48 seconds behind him. Again, a graphic showing a single leader, and then the following riders. De Silva, and he's picked up another rider with him. So the two of them are chasing the leader, Vondi. The riders going through what appears to be the feed zone, or some feeding going on, and through a tunnel out of the brilliant sunlight and into the darkness. These often cause problems, riders' vision adjusting.
The way that I've heard that should be done, and talking to some of these pros, they've told me that the best thing to do is to, just before you come in, like maybe 100 yards before coming into the tunnel, close one eye. And then once you're into the tunnel, open that eye again. And it's a lot easier to adjust that way, because by closing one eye, you're forcing the other eye to expand and to be able to take in more light. Thereby, when you go inside the tunnel, then you open both of them up, but you already got one that's adjusted to additional requirements.
Here, De Silva and his partner have joined Vondi and swept right past him. The lead constantly changing in an event like this. Now it's a three-man breakaway, whereas before it was two riders chasing one. Final kilometer, three riders heading for the finish. Now you can see just under 5 hours of racing have transpired, and the sprint is Acacio De Silva leading it out. The original breakaway rider, Vondi, sitting in second spot, and the third rider unable to challenge from the back. It looks like De Silva is going to pick up this stage victory for himself after a very fine effort. And the margin, now you can see, was a minute and a half.
Field sprint was won by Greg here.
Greg LeMond winning the field sprint a minute and 32 seconds behind the three-man breakaway lead group.
And now in the Giro, there's bonus time points up to fourth place. So that's why you see that that sprint of Greg. It was significant because there were some bonus points or bonus seconds involved.
First De Silva, now congratulating the still race leader, overall race leader, Giuseppe Cerrone in the pink jersey. De Silva the stage winner, and Cerrone sharing the podium at the end of that ninth stage. On to stage number 10. Good pace at this time. You can see the field, the peloton stretched out in a very long configuration. Means that somebody's got the hammer down up front.
Vantaggio in anticipo sulla tabella di marcia. È finito un episodio di fuga pochi istanti fa, adesso
that someone is this man right here.
Un altro, c'è un tentativo ancora di fuga con Magrini, Riccardo.
This is Riccardo Magrini. He's a comedian, this rider. He's one of those that everybody likes, and he's got quite a sense of humor and will come up with some of the weirdest things in the middle of the pack. Yet he's a very competitive rider. He just retired about a month ago.
Warre of Denmark is one of the riders that has swept past Magritte, and Warre has also raced in the United States, taking a place in the U.S. Professional Championships in Philadelphia a couple of years ago, when Eric Heiden was the winner.
8 kilometers from the finish.
And that is, I believe, Warre right there.
Petersen, il danese, reverberi. Dopo Warre lancia all'attacco Petersen, ma non gli concede spazio il gruppo, soprattutto la carrera. Abbiamo visto nelle primissime.
Not much of a lead for this young man here. This is Petersen, not Warre.
Ecco Moroni con Leali.
Leali. The Carrera team is now setting the train up for Bontempi.
And the final kilometer once again. There's a very decisive move down the left side of the road, going into the finish.
Yeah, there was a moment of hesitation there, and this guy attacked on the left, but it doesn't look like it's going to last.
And now the real sprinting begins.
Here's a Geese rider at the front, and then a Malwar rider trying to set the sprint up for a Lokio.
This looks much different from the front than it does from the air. Here it looks like a total free-for-all, and yet it has a very organized beauty to it. Here comes the sprint. And again, Bontempi taking yet another stage victory. As you said, he goes on to a total of 5 stage wins in the Giro d'Italia for 1986.
Here you see him on the left side, and watch the acceleration.
He's in essentially third position, now moving into second position and overtaking the leader with a very, as you say, constant acceleration. Just keeps going faster and faster. You get the idea that if the finish line was another 100 yards down the road, he'd go just that much faster again. Bontempi on the far left, and Cerrone in the pink jersey, the overall leader, again sharing the podium at the end of each stage.
Bontempi's forte is basically this guy's capable of doing a 400-meter sprint. He can just accelerate for about 400 meters.
On to the early part of stage 11. They crest at one of the climbs.
Poi c'è stata una caduta di Freuler, Vandi, Gambirasio, Pagnini, Salini, Asti, De Kelenar e Van Lanker senza conseguenze. Poi un attacco di Delle Case con un vantaggio massimo di 15 secondi. Poi un tentativo di Abadie e Bottoia.
3 kilometers on the finish.
Della montagna di Monte Castiglione.
The Italian television cameramen are very skilled at passing along information almost subliminally like that. Yes, single file. Again, this indicates a very, very fast pace. And the leader, whoever it might be, is riding right down the right side curb. Probably means there's a bit of a breeze, perhaps from right to left. And the strategy might be to keep any of the riders that are trying to follow him, you know, if the only place they can ride is either right behind him or in the gutter, in the dirt. You know, making a long single file line like that is a tactic that can be employed. If there's a wind from the right side, the riders will try to move to the left side of the road, much to the consternation of officials, at least here in the United States when the yellow line rule is in effect. And conversely, if the wind is from left to right, they'll try to stay in the right side gutter so that anyone on their wheel will have to ride in the dirt.
There you have the Carrera train, by the way.
Yep. Setting one up for the finish. One rider just barely ahead of the camera motorcycle, and the rest just barely, just behind it.
Now this guy is sitting in the front inch of the saddle, as you can see.
He's flat out.
Here is Leali.
Annulla, vedete Bruno Leali che ha recuperato, riassorbito Vannucci.
Leali having caught the one rider who was just ahead now as they're setting up, certainly in the closing the closing kilometer of this race.
See, as you can see, you got 1, 2, 3, and the fourth man is Bontempi.
In questo caso la funzione di aspirapolvere lo fa la squadra della Carrera che annulla gli ultimi tentativi per portare Bontempi alla vittoria di tappa. Bontempi, come dicevo, ha ottenuto anche la maglia di leader della classifica a punti, la maglia ciclamino, davanti a Van de Velde, Stefano Colagé e Rosola. Situazione 91 punti Van de Velde.
They are really moving along at this point. Certainly the speed in excess of 30 miles an hour steadily here.
The announcer was referring to the role that the Carrera team was doing. They were working as a vacuum cleaner, sucking in any particle that was trying to get away, meaning any rider that would try to jump away, they would just suck them back into the pack. But there you got the...
And looks like Greg sitting third spot there has gotten into that train. I believe that is the jersey of Greg LeMond sitting in third spot. Also a very good sprinter, Greg LeMond, in his own right. Yes.
Yeah, that's Greg right
Moving
there.
now into right in parallel in second spot there. To the right of the screen is Greg LeMond. He's figuring in this sprint.
In the middle is Bontempi.
Bontempi in the middle. And very hotly contested sprint there.
I mean, after all the work that his teammates did, the least that Bontempi could do is win, huh?
I would think so, yes. They might have something to say about that if he didn't. His job is to win. Their job is to get him close to the line in a position to win, and his job is then to win. If he didn't, I'm sure they would have something to say about that. And here you can see the Carrera team that started out with 4. Now they're down to just 2 of their members up front, and Bontempi makes his move in the center there.
Yeah, the last guy just peeled off, and there's Bontempi, and Greg is on Bontempi's wheel.
And another team setting up to the right there, trying to execute their own team strategy. But Bontempi is very strong in the middle. He is now out front, just daring anyone to try to get around him.
And on the left side, we see the Bianchi rider, Rossola, who happens to be, he lives very close to Bontempi, and they train together all the time. And they have a tremendous sprinting rivalry going on between them.
Bontempi just good enough on the right side of the road, and there he's taken the purple sprint leaders jersey after now a total of 3 stage victories.
You know, Brian, in addition to the 5 stages that Bontempi won in the Giro, he also won 3 stages in the Tour de France, and he credits his newfound strength or what have you to training under the methods of Professor Conconi, who's also the person, the doctor that's been training Moser, and doing a lot of work on anaerobic threshold during his training sessions. Here we got the next time trial stage, which took place in Siena. Siena is well known because of the Palio of Siena, which is a race that they do around the town center where the stage is going to finish. And this was a fairly lengthy time trial, approximately 45 kilometers. And Moser, as you will see, did not do very well at all, even though that is his specialty. And Greg also fell short of expectations. And I think that to a great extent, he was counting on this time trial to gain considerable amount of time, and as it turned out, it didn't happen.
Most of the riders, interestingly enough, using disc wheels front and rear, which is not often done. The conditions must have been very calm. And the almost hypnotic effect of seeing those double disc wheels rotating down the road. Greg LeMond appeared to be disappointed when he finished. He must certainly know what his time was at that point. Here's Moser, 34 years old, professional.
Moser had a very disappointing time trial here, and he was attacked very severely by the press, and there were all kinds of claims that he was finished, that he might as well hang it up, that he was too old, and etc. And for a long period of time, Moser would not talk to the press. I think that for about a month afterward, he wouldn't talk to the press. Needless to say, as we all know now, he was far from finished, because at the end of the 1986 season, he went on to set 2 new hour records at sea level, 1 week apart from each other. The second one being 49 kilometers, 850 meters, almost 50 kilometers. That, by the way, is an incredible feat, considering that his time at sea level was faster than the time that Merckx set in Mexico City.
The graphic here showing, of course, this is Moser coming to finish. You can see his time is indeed very disappointing. The leader, the number 44, refers to the rider with the fastest time, and at this point I believe it is Piasecki, Colnago del Tongo, Visentini earlier turning in the second best time. And here you can see 9th fastest for Moser.
That's correct. Piasecki won this time trial, and it was a tremendous victory for him and for the Del Tongo team as a whole. He had already turned in, as we mentioned before, an extremely credible performance as on that team time trial. And this was nothing more than a confirmation of tremendous potential that he has as a stage rider and a time trialist.
And coming in now, the 41 tells us that this will be Cerrone, the current race leader, overall race leader.
Cerrone turned in an excellent time in this time trial.
You can see that he's a half minute short of the time of his teammate Piasecki with some distance to the finish.
By the way, this is an extremely colorful city, Siena. Very, very old and quite picturesque. It's not too far from Florence, and for anybody in the Tuscany region, it's a must-see if you're in the area. That's spelled S-I-E-N-A, Siena.
Cerrone popping into the sunlight here and rounding the final few meters to the finish line, and you can see that his time will be quite good. That of Piasecki on the top, 59.04, and Cerrone's running time, 59.28.29, running at the bottom. Now he heads to the actual finish and posts the third best time. So Piasecki wins the stage, Visentini second, and Cerrone, the race leader, coming third. The strain of the effort showing on his face. There's Piasecki on the right with the mustache, the Polish former world amateur champion, now racing on the professional team of Colnago del Tongo. His captain, the race leader, Giuseppe Cerrone, in the center. And the white jersey of the best neo-pro, first-year pro rider on the left of the screen to Cerrone's right.
That rider by the way, is Giovanni, who's also Del Tongo Colnago rider.
So the Del Tongo Colnago team folks have got to be pretty happy with that picture. Here we start stage number 13. Again, it
Siena, yeah,
begins where the previous stage ended, in Siena, right in the town square where they have the famous horse race. And here we're showing 14 riders have retired, 157 riders are still in the race. Some other useful information being passed along by the graphic display there.
There's Visentini.
And a breakaway with a 1-minute lead. I believe this is Da Silva again.
It looks like him, yeah.
Acasio Da Silva, the Portuguese.
But reel back in.
There he comes back to the peloton.
Coming back to the fold. No?
It's interesting, the number of riders will actually describe that as the way it happens. You know, you think of the field going up to the leader, but rather riders in the field will refer to a leader as having come back to them.
We're going to reel him in.
It's an interesting frame of reference. Yeah. He came, very often you'll hear the statement, well, he came back to us with 40 miles to go or something of that nature, and it's always been an unusual way of, or certainly a different way of looking at it, but one quite accurate.
The Panasonic team really had a poor performance in this year's Giro. I don't think they won a stage. They didn't have anybody in GC. It was basically a bad Giro for Peter Post and his crew.
A good-looking echelon of riders here working very well at the front, as each one takes a very short, quick burst at the front of the field, a 5-man breakaway at this point, or a breakaway effort that's going on. Not a big lead. There's 2 more riders trying to come up and join it.
9 kilometers from the finish. Here they are at 3 kilometers from the finish. And there's a couple of guys just still hanging out there.
This is Piper of the Panasonic team. Alan Piper, Australia, just there. You can see desperation written all over them as they look over their shoulders. They have to see that the field is not far behind them. They're committed, however, to trying to make it to the finish line and you can see that their effort is going to be for naught.
And not only that, but you know that the moment that you get caught, there's going to be a counterattack, and you're going to have to go back up to speed again. There's no respite here.
Final kilometer. Day after day, these riders compete for 3 to 7 hours, making cycling has certainly been stated as the most difficult sport to compete in consistently because of the number of times, the number of days per year that these riders compete, and the duration of time that they spend in competition. Many riders will compete upwards of 200 days a year and spend, as I said, 4 to 7 hours a day on their bike in competition. Never mind that they train virtually every other day that they're not racing. Here's a good sprint again, a very fast sprint. There's all the heavy hitters, including the purple jersey there of Bontempi in the center, and he's not going to get the best of it this time, however. "36 kilometers an hour for nearly 6 hours of racing." There's again, Bontempi on the right, and that purple jersey makes him a lot easier to pick out, and he appears to have it won here for a while, but then a very good acceleration effort, much like Bontempi's own, coming up the left side of the road.
Well, it was a last-minute thing, too, huh? From a guy that came from away from
the fifth spot. There he sneaks around on the left side, just through a little hole, and takes the victory by a bike length.
He definitely worked for it. Fourteenth stage, and we're looking at a solo breakaway now.
By one of the Brianzoli team riders.
That's Giuliani.
Giuliani out in front with a very determined effort at this point. The field perhaps not too concerned with his breakaway, as he is not one of the contenders on general classification. And here we have a solid-looking chase group that wants to make Giuliani's effort unsuccessful. He is, however, getting ever closer to the finish line.
They're 5 kilometers from the finish right now.
And a 50-second advantage for Giuliani.
This is Tommy Prim.
Visentini and Lamond again. These two watching each other very closely throughout the event thus far. Visentini, number 22 there in the center of the screen. Greg LeMond there. And they have yet to be heard from in this race in terms of overall lead. Visentini currently third, 1 minute and 31 seconds behind the leader, Cerrone, in general classification, with 7 stages to go.
Here we got Chioccioli, the guy that I mentioned earlier that is very similar to Coppi, even in physical appearance.
And here's Cerrone trying to minimize his losses, if you will, to Visentini, trying to keep him close.
This is Martin Early. He's another Irish rider. Looks more like a college professor or something than a rider.
Fellow running along with a water bottle, just avoiding a motorcycle at the last moment.
Early has that Fignon look, you know, with the
very professorial.
Yeah, thinning hair, small glasses.
Here's Cerrone has taken matters into his own hands by riding at the front of the peloton.
And Moser on his wheel now. Moser has got his teammate up front, so he's not contributing to the motion here.
And here's Visentini and Lamond, their little group.
There's an interesting thing here. If you notice Visentini and the Carrera team, they have Peugeot on their shorts. The reason why is because the Carrera team bought Roche from the Peugeot team. And part of the exchange, or part of the compensation, was not just monetary, but it was an agreement that the Carrera team, in spite of the fact that they use Bataillon bicycles, they would continue to use Peugeot on their shorts. One of those compromises that are arrived at after long hours of negotiation. So you have an incongruity here. You got a short that says Peugeot, yet all the riders in the Carrera team are using Bataillon bicycles.
So this little breakaway group beginning to get back together. Tommy Prim there, number 146, coming up behind Lamond, Visentini, and the rest. And there's Cerrone and Moser, the two Italian rivals.
There's Corti at the tail end here, losing a little bit of terrain. And again, as you mentioned before, Cerrone is trying to minimize his losses. And he did a remarkable job in this stage, because he did minimize the losses. It could have been a lot more serious than it was. And he certainly did not get any assistance.
Here's Martin Early.
Early winning the stage, 6 hours and 17 minutes.
.37 kilometers an hour. Now the race essentially for second place, Visentini and Lamond. Or I guess for third and fourth, actually. Here's second, or fourth and fifth. Here's second and third crossing the line. 19 seconds in arrears.
Giuliani and Chosas. In essence, what happened here is that Early caught Giuliani and passed him.
And Visentini and Lamond finishing in turn fourth and fifth, nearly a half minute behind the winner of the stage. But the significant thing here is that Visentini and Lamond have both picked up some time, at least, on Cerrone, who has been back there trying to keep the time lost to a minimum. There's Cerrone's group coming in then at 47 seconds, so that would be a net of approximately 20 seconds behind Visentini and Lamond.
Plus, Visentini also, by virtue of fourth place, picked up some bonus time.
So that'll make some changes on the general classification. Martin Early in replay here, winning the stage. And there he is, sharing the podium with the overall leader, Cerrone. Cerrone has had certainly more than his share of moments in that spotlight up there on the award stage. Every day that he is the race leader, he receives a new bouquet and a new jersey.
35 kilometers from the finish, 15th stage.
Two riders out in front. This looks like the fellow who was taken into the stone wall earlier by Corti, the second rider in that group, along with the Panasonic rider here. Yes, I believe the second rider there is the one that was pushed into the stone wall, as we saw earlier.
I guess he's fortunate that he's not with Corti again.
Not this one, but yes, indeed.
One of the few riders wearing a helmet. Actually, this Giro was marred by a very serious accident. I think it was in the second or third stage. A rider of the Atala team by the name of Ravasio, who had won a stage at the Coors Classic in 1984.
In Vale.
In Vale, yeah. Ravasio crashed, and he wasn't wearing a helmet, and he went into a coma for about 2 weeks, and at the end of which he he died.
Many American fans will remember the jubilation with which Ravasio won that stage in Vale. That was a tremendous crowd, a very vocal crowd. I had the honor and pleasure of being there at that time and calling the race. And Ravasio, one of the most popular non-American winners of any stage of the Coors Classic. It's unfortunate that he was taken away before his time.
Why did he become so popular on the course? Was he just a likable kind of fellow?
That's exactly it. He was just very exuberant in victory, very animated on the podium, very, his thrill of victory, stop-action photograph, if you will, that froze in many people's minds, was one of extreme joy at winning in front of such a vocal crowd. Fans, I think maybe the difference between fans in Europe and fans in the United States is that fans in the United States cheer for the winner, whoever the winner might be. Fans in Europe tend to be a little nationalistic. The French fans will cheer for their favorites, the Italians for theirs, etc., etc. And over here, I think if there is a difference, a basic difference, it's that the American fans, they don't know any of these people well enough to have a clear-cut favorite, and they cheer for any winner. And Ravasio gave them a true picture of a winner that day, and he will be missed. We observed a moment of silence this year, in fact, at the Coors for Emilio Ravasio.
I wasn't aware of that. That's very nice. He certainly was popular with his teammates as well as with the whole entourage of the Giro. It was there were scenes on television of all of his teammates really moved the day of his death, and they all attended funeral services and mass, and the fellow was definitely one of the most popular riders, in spite of the fact that he was a very young pro. I think that he turned pro right after the 84 Olympics, so he certainly hadn't been around for a long time, but was a very dedicated domestique. It was one of these real reliable guys that the team could definitely count on.
80 kilometers an hour on the descent here just a moment ago. The shot of the speedometer on the motorcycle, 80 kilometers an hour.
Wasn't a very steep descent because he was actually pedaling through it, so you're looking at a gradual descent, and 80 kilometers an hour translates to 50 miles an hour.
And after 7 hours and 15 minutes of racing, to be able to still pedal at that speed.
That's Erik Pedersen again. The fellow that I mentioned earlier was a singing star in Norway, in his home country.
Very jubilant victory scene there for Pedersen. Here comes the race for third place.
Bombini.
And Bombini taking that third place sprint. Again, 7 hours and 15 minutes, and they're showing this kind of ability
and exuberance.
How many of us have gone out on a training ride for 7 hours and 15 minutes and been able to show that kind of snap at the end?
Here we got two major climbs, and the finish being on top of a climb.
The 16th stage. 143-kilometer race through the snow.
Oh, here we have some snow.
Serious.
A lot more so than before. This is serious snow here.
Serious snow. We have serious snow very often in here in the United States too. One of the things that the European riders note, that the climbs themselves and so on aren't so more severe over here. It's just that the base elevations are so much higher that the race begins at 2,000 meters or 6,500, 7,000 feet and goes on up to 11,000 or 12,000 feet. And often in Colorado and right into July, you'll see 10, 20, 30 feet of snow up on top of some of the major passes.
That much, huh?
Just like here.
8 kilometers from the finish here.
Moser grimacing into what appears to be a storm of some kind brewing at that altitude. There's Cerrone.
Now, Moser, in this particular stage, had two of his teammates up front. He had Baron Kelly and he had Corti. So Cerrone basically could not count on anybody's help. And Beccia was there at the front, is at the front here, but Beccia, actually, remembering when I saw the live transmission, was there for maybe not even a kilometer. And the lion's share of the work had to be done by Cerrone. And in the front you had Vicentini and Lemon, Greg, and this was the decisive stage. I believe it was in this stage where Cerrone lost the pink jersey to Vicentini.
There are LeMond and Vicentini right there, center camera. Greg LeMond in the colors of the La Vie Claire, and there's Vicentini.
And they know that Cerrone isn't back, and they know that this is their golden opportunity. This is Munoz, I believe, and there's Corti back there.
Most are marking Cerrone. As you said, with two of his teammates up front, he's not going to work. And Cerrone has to take matters into his own hands to try to minimize his loss of time to the riders who are up ahead. 1 minute and 50 seconds. And from the previous general classification standings, we knew that prior to Vicentini picking up 20 seconds or so a few stages ago, that he was only 1.5 minutes or thereabouts down. So this 1 minute and 50 seconds does in fact make Vicentini the leader on the road, so to speak. He has gained enough time to take away the overall general classification lead of Cerrone.
Here's Baron Kelly, and he, at this point, he could have, if he would have stayed with Vicentini, he would have been the pink jersey. On the road, he was a pink jersey, the leader's jersey, and he got dropped, and he was very, very severely accused by his sponsor. By the way, here Vicentini, his chain drops as he's changing, and lost a lot of ground, and Munoz and Greg went on ahead. But going back to Baron Kelly, here in this stage is where he was very severely criticized by his sponsor, and the next day he decided not to start. And shortly after the Giro, he switched teams onto Del Tongo Colnago and finished the season with a very creditable victory at the Lombardia, the Giro de Lombardia.
There's Munoz winning the stage ahead of Greg LeMond. Greg LeMond coming in second place, so he advances his position on general classification with a fair margin of time over Cerrone, the race leader. And here comes Vicentini, who had the chain problem earlier. He'll come in and take third place and the race lead, the overall race lead.
Here's Corti in fourth place. And Baron Kelly coming in a minute 23. He lost a minute 23 on this particular stage.
After having been in that breakaway. There's
here goes Zimmerman. And Moser, the Cerrone group with Moser in it. And Moser is going to win the sprint. They're coming in 2:20 something, almost 2.5 minutes behind.
So that gives Vicentini the race lead after 16 stages. 5 stages remain. There's Munoz, the stage winner, and Vicentini donning for the first time the pink jersey, the Maglia Rosa of the leader of the Giro d'Italia.
As you know, the jersey is pink because of the newspaper La Gazzetta dello Sport, which sponsors the main sponsor of the race, is printed on pink paper. And this is also the reason why the yellow jersey in France, it's yellow. It's because there is a newspaper, L'Equipe, which is the main sponsor of the Tour de France, is printed on yellow paper.
th stage, and again, the large. This really is a part of the race that's called the promenade, when the racers just sort of line up side by side, chit-chat, talk with one another. And after the new situation with Vicentini becoming the race leader, they really, I guess, have to sort of regroup and figure out, well, now what's going to happen next? We've set our strategy based on Cerrone being the race lead, and we've countered moves by his teammates, and now we really have to kind of take a few minutes to think about what we're going to do here now that we have an altogether new situation.
To a certain extent, there's a relief for Cerrone's team, because now they don't have to defend that jersey. They don't have to work like mad in order to chase down the breakaways, etc. Now they can let somebody else do the work, in particular the Carrera team.
Just like that, another breakaway effort gets going as riders perhaps see their opportunities to move up in general classification or snag a stage win within 7 kilometers from the finish.
Vediamo cosa succede in testa al gruppo.
One lone rider, with only the camera motorcycle for company, out in front right now.
L'olandese
Lammerts, Dutch rider.
All'attacco a 6 km dalla conclusione. Lammers sta per essere ripreso.
Now being joined by a second rider.
Della Ecloflam che si è portato su Lammers, vediamo di chi si tratta, se è possibile inquadrarlo con la telecamera. È Caro.
Closely marked by the camera motorcycle.
And 2 more riders trying to come up and make it 4.
Eccolo qua il romagnolo Caroli.
You can tell when they're jamming, when they're not just by the speed, but also their position on the bicycle. You can see that usually when the speed is high, they're sitting in the front third of the saddle there.
Final kilometer. They will be jamming now, that's for sure. And again, each team will try to set up their best sprinter, and again a spill in the melee that usually precedes the finishing sprint. Riders all fighting for position in the field. Someone will touch someone else's wheel, or perhaps often, as you've said, a dog, a spectator, somebody sticking an arm out, an over-enthusiastic fan, whatever. All these factors multiply the closer to the finish the riders get.
Also, the riders are a little nervous. Everybody's jockeying for position. You take chances right there when you're 1 kilometer from the finish that you normally wouldn't take, you know. Speed is a lot higher, a lot more variables.
È riuscito a sganciarsi un uomo di pezzi, ma attenzione, Bontempi è nelle prime.
Bontempi in the purple jersey, there he goes, right through the middle again.
Ha recuperato e
Bontempi in that brilliant violet jersey on the right of the screen. And it looks like stage win number 4, if we're counting correctly, for Bontempi.
There was no question on that one, huh? He basically
better
just
than
let
a bike
it.
length. Just let it out from 300 or 400 meters and took it from the front.
If you can come around, you're welcome.
The double arm victory salute. There's Visentini in the pink jersey, and Bontempi with the flowers in the air there, sharing the victory podium after stage number 17.
I guess that heart rate training that Conconi worked for him is paying off in spades, huh?
4 stage wins. 4 out of 17 is a pretty good percentage. Time trial, stage number 18, individual time trial. The race of truth once again comes to the forefront. No field sprint tactics, no drafting, no nothing. Just each rider against the clock.
corridore che ha portato a termine la prova, ne mancano ancora 28.
Henny Kuiper, former world champion.
There's general classification, a review. Visentini first, Cerrone, the former leader, in second. Greg LeMond has moved himself into 3rd spot ahead of Corti, the Italian champion. Here's Cerrone on the time trial podium, prepared to start.
Si piazzò al 3° posto a 30 secondi dal compagno di
That's
squadra.
the white jersey classification of the youthful rider.
I giovani, Giovannetti.
Giovannetti and Stefano Colage. Colage has raced in America. And off On 2 disc wheels goes Cerrone, having lost the pink jersey.
Nuovamente sulla linea di partenza con...
Now you must remember that here Francesco is trying to redeem himself in the previous time trial, where he was so severely criticized. And he's going to go on to turn in a tremendous performance.
Ed ecco intanto Greg LeMond con il naso segnato per la caduta dell'altro giorno. Greg LeMond
scrape on his nose there might be from that second or third stage crash that you mentioned. Here he's doing a final adjustment on his rear brake.
La Vicler nella prima prova a cronometro, quella a squadre.
Another fine time trialist, Greg LeMond. And there's Visentini, the race leader, wearing his
che a Siena
shiny new pink skin suit jersey for the time trial.
29 years old.
Particolarmente adatto per questo tipo di gare. Ricordiamo che
It appears as though the prime age really for bike racers is in the upper end of 20 years of age. Even the early 30s really seems to be the real prime. You find exceptional riders that are younger and a few that are older, but the real prime age seems to be in the late 20s and early 30s.
Well, this guy is putting that theory a little bit to the test because he's 34. He just turned 35, as a matter of fact.
Tengo conto solo degli intertempi degli uomini di...
Notice how he slides forward and then comes back on the saddle, and slides forward and comes back on the saddle.
13:46, poi 13:51 Visentini.
With effort, a rider will naturally slide forward, and Moser seems to really have almost a cadence established where he hits the pedals hard several times, forcing himself forward on the saddle and pushes back and then repeats the process again. Here's Cerrone again, 2 disc wheels, green, white, and red, the Italian colors.
On the split screen, you got Cerrone and Moser, and they're trying to sort of like establish a comparison between pedaling styles.
La pesantezza ormai dell'azione di Greg LeMond e l'agilità con cui invece sta spingendo il grande rapporto.
Curved top tube funny bikes. Everybody riding pretty much what we call the funny bikes, although they aren't so funny anymore. They're becoming quite the norm. And there's Visentini also on the split screen, then LeMond on the left and Visentini on the right. Turo having posted the best time at this point. Cerrone sitting in, and Cerrone's time coming on the bottom. Fourth best. 45-14 for Cerrone. Turo no factor on general classification with his stage performance there. And here comes Moser. You can see that his time is quite a bit better, and he has in fact put up the new best time in the time trial, under 44 minutes, having some measure of redemption, if you will, for his poor performance earlier. Here comes LeMond. You can see his time quite a bit slower than that of Cerrone. I mean of Moser.
Il tempo è 43-28.
11th
best out of all the finishers.
Yeah, here Greg slipped from 3rd place to 4th place, and Moser came up from 5th place to 3rd place.
Visentini si piazza in
sesta
posizione per il momento, vediamo.
His time 6th best, and his margin of lead apparently sufficient to hold the pink jersey.
Sesto quello di Visentini.
There's Moser, very happy, and Visentini, still the race leader overall. At the end of 18 stages, three more to go. They are very definitely in the north of Italy at this point, having come all the way from the island of Sicily.
You can see the weather changes, as I mentioned earlier. This is a little bit different from the start where they were racing in Sicily.
Brilliant sunshine and short sleeves to cold and raining and long sleeve jerseys here.
Al secondo posto Salvadore, un veneto, terzo è l'irlandese Roche e quarto è lo svizzero De Mier. Il gruppo con Moser, Le Monde e Visentini a 53 secondi, a 1:38 Saronni.
They crest one of the climbs.
Siamo su Johan van de Velde. Johan
Van de Velde of the disappointing Panasonic team, disappointing at least in this Giro d'Italia, as you mentioned earlier, Jose.
Yeah, they really turned a very disappointing performance, and they were expecting to do a lot better. There was Peter Post is just not the type that would enter a team in a stage race of this magnitude without any hopes of doing well. But nobody could really explain why, because they had their heavy hitters there. The only guy that was missing was Anderson. And in the past, they've always done relatively well in the. As a matter of fact, even their sprinter Van der Arden didn't do anything, and I don't think he even finished. I think towards halfway through or something like that, he quit.
A 27-second advantage at this point for the Panasonic rider. Apparently trying to get some measure of pride back into their effort. Van de Velde is the one who's out in front.
Nel gruppo degli inseguitori, nel gruppo dei leader. Una tappa che però ha nel tratto finale, negli ultimi 3 chilometri, il punto più impegnativo, più difficile. È il terzo ed ultimo.
Looks like a winter training ride in northeastern United States here, with all the wool hats and long sleeve jerseys and even tights on some of the riders. Markedly different from the warm sunshine of the south of Italy.
That area, though, in the summer, it's just gorgeous.
Nella precedente inquadratura ripresa dall'elicottero a 1:44 il gruppo.
Going through one of the thousands and thousands of little towns that are interspersed throughout the northern part of Italy.
Pagnin all'inseguimento di Johan van de Velde.
Here's Pagnin.
6 chilometri dalla conclusione.
Chasing Van de Velde, who's still out in front. 5-rider group, 40 seconds.
That's 6 kilometers from the finish. Van de Velde has 40 seconds.
E Bombini che fa l'andatura con Paganessi in seconda posizione con Roche. Pagnin è stato ripreso. Pagnin ripreso mentre è stato staccato Demier.
And there's Visentini.
Visentini che ha schierato i suoi uomini Cassani leali in testa al gruppo.
Now, Visentini called for a couple of his teammates to set the pace at the front, and that's Cassani and Leali, teammates of Visentini at the front.
Saronni, poi Moser, poi il campione d'Italia Corti.
And there's
del direttore di corsa
Van der Velde redeeming
Johan van de Velde.
the Panasonic team in a small way.
Picking up a stage victory in the 19th.
Not by much,
stage,
though.
certainly not by very much at all.
Johan van de Velde al secondo posto, Salvador che non riesce a trattenere un gesto di stizza. Terzo è Bombini, deluso anche lui. Allora Van de Velde,
Visentini and Lamond ever vigilant. Lamond in 4th overall, Visentini the current leader. There's the rest of the 5-man group.
Paganessi arrivano le ammiraglie. Visentini sempre in testa. Lo sprint.
And Lamond coming in for what will appear to be 6th place, followed by Cerrone and Visentini.
Moser, Eric Pedersen,
Moser also there.
Da Silva, poi arriva Rutiman.
There again is Visentini. He has to be getting a little jittery about the fact that there are only 2 stages remaining. He's got that pink jersey, but as you said before, he has a history of having that one bad day. Only 2 days remain now in which that he could possibly have that problem. Only a minute behind him is Giuseppe Cerrone.
Now, this stage finished in the town of Bassano del Grappa. In Bassano is where they had the 1985 World Championships track events. And the town of Avezzano is approximately 11 kilometers from the headquarters of the Italia Velo Sport training camp. So we do go into that area very, very often and ride in this particular type of country every day. So this is very typical of the type of terrain that we train in, as well as race in during the summer months at the Italia Velo Sport training camp. I tell you, Brian, it's a beautiful, beautiful area where you have just about every conceivable type of terrain, from dead flat all the way down to the coast and to Venice, to rolling hills, to just serious climbing. We are right at the foothills of the Dolomites and the Alps, and we have terrain to choose from, and the weather conditions are excellent. It is definitely the hotbed of cycling, northern Italy is, and that area in particular, the Veneto region. And there's races to choose from to your heart's content, everything within not more than 30, 40 miles of our headquarters. I mean, for us to travel more than 30 or 40 miles, there's got to be some major race. Otherwise, we're totally spoiled and never have to go further than, I would say the average distance that we race is like 25, 30 miles from our headquarters.
That's certainly an advantage in a training camp situation. It's certainly something that the European racers are spoiled with somewhat. Here in the United States, our country is so huge that very often from one race to another, it's not 25 or 30 miles, but you're lucky if a race is 200 or 300 miles from the previous one.
I know. When I come back to the United States, I am amazed at the distance that people travel to go to races and the dedication that it takes to endure that kind of travel just to do a 30, 40, 50, 60-mile race. You know, you spend hours and hours and hours getting there and coming home, when the participation in the event is maybe an hour or two.
There's Jens Vegerby was just caught by, it looked like Steve Bauer of the La Vie Claire team.
Yeah, Bauer.
The final kilometer here.
They're coming into Bassano, and the finish is going to be almost right by the track. They're going to be passing the track on, I believe, will be on the left side the way they've approached it, and they'll be finishing one of the wide roads there. There was one rider that apparently got squeezed out and
took a little
lost
bit of a
the train.
line. Yeah. Here's the train again. There's Bontempi in the purple jersey, fourth from the front right now, just to the right of center there, just to the left of the center line, just to the right of the lead part of the train. And here comes another train down the right side. Bontempi wisely moves right over and sees the fast wheel.
Notice that he's not going to be squeezed. He could have been squeezed there from the Panasonic rider coming in on the right side.
Now Bontempi starts his patented 400-meter catch me if you can sprint. And your prediction, if you will, of 5-stage victories for Bontempi has now been made true with one stage remaining. Bontempi picks up his 5th stage victory in the 1986 Giro d'Italia. Right out of the textbook, a powerful sprint victory from the front.
Just sheer power. He found the hole, he went through it, he did not allow himself to be squeezed in, and then from that point on it was just power.
There he is, right riding point there. Nobody can get around him.
Every so often he looks up to see where the finish line is and puts his head back down again and just keeps on powering.
He has it down to a science. There he is on the left, Bontempi. Certainly the premier field sprinter in the 1986 Giro d'Italia. The final stage.
Well, there was a second final stage, because they had, almost like they did at the Course one time, they had a circuit, little criterium race finish, which was counted on points. It didn't count on time. And as opposed to the traditional time trial that they normally have for the last stage. This is the stage that they call the Tapone. Tapone is like the big mountain stage. Here they had something like 5 or 6 mountain passes to climb. And in many cases, everybody kind of looks upon this stage as so decisive and so dramatic, and they're going to be climbing all these passes and etc. And then it becomes anticlimactic because everybody is so careful and it's so prepared for this that riders tend to ride very defensively instead of aggressively. And at least during the last 4 or 5 years, no, I think it would be 6 years now that I've been following the Giro right in Italy. I haven't seen any dramatic changes in general classifications, and it's usually some particular individual that they let get away that then finishes this particular stage and makes a name for himself. But there are no dramatic changes in general classification because the main guys are constantly watching each other and they ride a very defensive race.
So here's a 4-man group going up one of the mountain passes. Earlier we saw one of the riders putting his arm warmers back in his pocket. And so it looks like a change of clothing, on again, off again, with the long sleeve jerseys and so on. Here's the second mountain pass.
Maximum inclination 12%. The average is 6.4%, 7.5 kilometers of climb.
The significant thing, I think, to American fans is the altitude, the top elevation, 2,100 meters. And that's maybe 7,000 feet. So while the percent grade is 12%, which is very, very steep, the altitude, the upper altitude is not that high. In Colorado, in many of the stages, the riders will look at a profile map and they'll see, 7% grade, 8% grade, 9% grade, and they think, oh, this is not very serious, until they realize they don't look at the little numbers that say, race begins at 7,500 feet and ends at 12,000 feet, and they just turn gray when they get to the top of some of these mountain passes over here. The roads are not as steep, or maybe they are, but the big difference is the change in elevation.
Yeah, I guess the higher you go, the more difficult it is, to the degree that you're not accustomed to it. I think that's a definite advantage to the riders that get to train in that particular kind of terrain.
The air molecules are like gnats. You have to bite at them one at a time up that high. Visentini is, as with this graphic, you can see 2 minutes and 40 seconds behind the lead group of 4 riders, but perhaps this lead group of 4 riders does not contain anyone who is dangerous to him on general classification. So he is willing to let them stay out there. He is not particularly, he and his group are now closing some ground, however. As you can see the graphic changing from 240 to 140. So some danger must be represented in this breakaway. To La Vie Claire jersey, but I believe that's Reutemann, the Swiss.
Yeah, I think it's Reutemann, yeah. It's certainly
not Le Mans. It's certainly not Le Mans, or Visentini would definitely be very animated in his chase. So here they are, just a couple of kilometers from the finish.
I believe Da Silva is in that breakaway.
Da Silva, I believe, is the front rider of the 4. And
Reutemann,
the commissaire in the car there shaking his red flag at the motorcycle. The motorcycle driver going, what's the problem? What's the problem for me? Having a bit of a discussion there.
That's Torriani, the organizer of the Giro.
And here's Ocasio da Silva, almost 7 hours of racing on this
handily taking his second stage win. Notice the average speed 33, which is a shade over 20 miles an hour. So it'll give you an idea of how many climbs they had that day.
Even with major mountain passes, they're still averaging a good clip.
Here comes Turo.
Didi Turo in the front there, the German.
48 seconds behind, 49. And the field.
Now the main group, which would contain Visentini, the race leader. 1 minute, 23 seconds. There's Da Silva showing the members of the press the price they must pay for being close to greatness. The victory champagne. Here's the 22nd stage.
And this is the last. It was a semi-stage. It wasn't...
More or less an exhibition stage.
Right.
The riders, you can see, they've cracking smiles, and some of the relief is beginning to show on their faces of seeing the finish line, so to speak. Of
144 riders finished, and 27 were casualties.
Big crowd turning out there for the final show. The action right from the start is very active here. There's Visentini just trying to stay out of trouble, trying to protect that pink jersey that he wants very much to wear on the podium for the last time. 45-second advantage for a breakaway of half dozen riders or so there.
They had a small circuit going outside and then back on to finishing laps inside the city.
7 riders with a 45-second advantage. A little over 3 kilometers from the finish. This is Van Lanker, who is Belgian, riding for the Panasonic team. And he has escaped. And it looks as though
it's no, this will be the last lap. It's a bell lap.
He's completed the outer part of the course and is now on his way to a small circuit to finish. If he can hold on, he will pick up a stage win for Panasonic, as Van de Velde did earlier. Minute and 4-second lead, and it is Michael Wilson. No, it's Kim Nielsen who is chasing him.
There comes the amoeba.
A large field. Visentini very visible in his pink jersey. Bontempi likewise in his purple jersey, and he's having a word there with Visentini, the two of them exchanging a bit of a word. Bontempi begins to move towards the front. Here is Van Lanker again. He's getting ready to smile and look pretty for the cameras with his hands in the air on the final stage of the 1986 Giro d'Italia.
Here comes here comes the rest of the group
coming in turn to complete a long and grueling event. And of course, we'd expect Visentini to come through with his hands. There, he just passed the finish line.
Well-deserved Giro for Visentini.
He rode very aggressively early on and deserved the win. There's the rest of the field coming across in turn. Each rider must...
I think he's going to try the Tour this coming year. Everything that I heard, both him and Cerrone intend to ride the Tour, as well as the Argentine, which is the current world champion. So there is renewed interest on the part of Italian participation in the Tour de France.
There he is, Visentini, holding up the victory cup. And with him there was Bontempi with his 5-stage victories and the points jersey there just to the left of the screen. Visentini, the winner of the 1986, the 69th running of the Giro d'Italia bicycle race.
Teammates, Bontempi and Visentini.
Sharing the podium on the last day.
Very successful season it's been for Carrera.
There's the green climber's jersey and the white jersey of the best young rider. All of the special jerseys on the podium at the end of the race. And so we bring to a close the 69th running of the Giro d'Italia. For Jose Diaz of Italia Velo Sport, who have brought you these videos, this is Brian Drebber saying so long. Hope you enjoyed it.
See you in '87.